and we're talking about Lord of the Flies from 1963, directed by Peter Brook. Not to be confused with Lord of the Rings, directed by Peter Jackson.
Oh, fuck. We gotta stop.
Oh
You gotta
no,
give me about an hour or two to catch up here.
you spent 12 hours watching it.
I was watching all the director cuts too,
Yeah, I
so
know.
that like an 8-hour Return of the King cut
Mm-hmm.
that nobody can finish. Anyways.
Anyways, Lord of the Flies.
Mm-hmm.
I read this in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And we watched the 1990 adaptation, which I did not revisit for this trip around because I find the story is pretty straightforward as is.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tale of 30 schoolboys who find themselves marooned on an island after their plane that was like evacuating from England, I guess, crashes.
Something.
Something happens,
Yeah.
and they wind up on a beach, and they're not like any worse for wear. They're not scratched or burnt up or anything like that. But the plane has kind of been pulled out into the ocean since they getting there. We follow Ralph and his new pal, whose nickname is Piggy because he's a fat kid. They come across a conch shell. And then they wind up running into the other survivors. There's some school choir boys, and then there's just a bunch of other kids, kind of all around the same age. Some are bigger, some are smaller. And I don't know, kind of from there, they try to set up a democracy, in quotes, the way
Yes.
children would do it. Some might say that this film is sort of, or the story itself is allegorical, RJ.
Some have called it allegorical,
and
RJ.
then there is some symbolism in this film, in this story.
Yeah, I'll tell you about some symbolism later.
Okay. So anyway, like democracy in the real world, it's tough. It's hard. People are selfish and have their own goals, and so there's usually some sort of checks. But people have to allow those checks to play a part. That whole conch thing, it's about holding the conch and you're allowing them to speak, but that only means anything if people actually continue to agree to holding that conch. And soon enough, it's kind of things break down between Ralph and Jack. Ralph's sort of like the good kid. He's like the regular person that you kind of go along with. Piggy is sort of the thoughtful one, kind of whiny. The conscience. Yep. And Jack just wants to do whatever the fuck Jack wants to do. Because that's what all people named Jack are like in all of cinema and film and books and stuff. The Jacks are dicks. So yeah, there's a pig. That pig is hunted and eaten by the children, who are turning more and more feral as their time proceeds. Because the whole idea is like they think that if they wait long enough, someone will come along and rescue them. But they kind of lose sight of that even as an idea, and they just start going. Things start going to shit. They put this pig's head on a spit or spike, and one kid who's an epileptic thinks it's talking to him. That's the Lord of the Flies, by the way. This rotting head. One of the only things I really remember about the story, for the most part, is Piggy gets killed.
Drop a big ass rock on his head.
They sure do. And things just get kind of worse and worse. Society breaks down. They all turn to a bunch of little savages. And then a guy shows up and looks upon this, and the kids are all like, "Oh man, look what we've become." The end.
Such horror.
Much horror.
Yeah.
So that's Lord of the Flies. So I read this book in grade 11, and it was never one of my favorite stories. It seems like it's a story that high school teachers like to use because it's just the book that they use, because you can teach them about the symbolism. They can teach them about allegories, and they can ask essay questions like, what does the head in Lord of the Flies represent? What does the character Piggy represent in the story Lord of the Flies? Those sort of essay topics, and then that's sort of
the one we always got, this allegory symbolism. What are the butterflies that Simon watches? And I always thought that was a bullshit question because those butterflies don't mean anything. That teacher also said that Simon was Jesus. So I don't know. I don't know, man.
Anyways, that's that Catholic school program.
It is. It is. So that's your hard-earned bucks at work.
I remember watching that 1990 movie, and I was always like, oh, cool, there's this 1960s version. And I was like, it's not one of my favorite stories, so I've never like gone on my way to watch it. But now we're doing this show, we got to watch it. So my thoughts on it were, this seems to be a very typical of the British style filmmaking I know, particularly of this era. Sort of like that, like still photography, classical music, and there's this like sense of dread. And then there's sort of like this like 60s art house juxtaposition thing that was very popular at this point in time, with like high contrast photographs of like military planes, stuff like that, which is like all like stuff I don't remember being in the book, but like I guess it was all there. I just don't remember it whatsoever. That there's a sort of like this sort of vague like kind of like nuclear thing happening in the background away from the island.
I don't think it gets the attention in the book that it does in like cinema and like film, because in the book it's just like a minor background thing, but then people take that or take ideas from that. It's like, oh, this represents this represents that. But when you show a film, you have a person who's trying to show what those things represent, or in their mind at least. So you have like, you can let the camera linger on that, and then it becomes something bigger than say when you read the book, and you're like, because this beast with like the abandoned plane or whatever. I had no idea. I totally forgot about that, and I was like, huh, all right. But I mean, that was also 15 some years ago. So
I guess maybe that's jumping ahead a little bit. But anyway, So I guess like my feeling on this movie is it's okay. Like it's just like, that's the story, all right. I mean, I'm a big fan of like this docudrama style. I really like the way that the movie is shot. I like the way it was photographed. But at the end of the day, it's just like it's not one of my favorite stories or anything like that. I feel like this type of story has been done elsewhere and better. And I don't know. It's like, it's fine. It's like good, but it's not great. And it's like just very much like, I'll never go back to this. I had like fun kind of like remembering things as the movie played out. I'm like, oh, there's the conch. And of course, sucks to your assmar. I will always remember sucks to your assmar. That's like the highlight of this for me. It also recalled, it was in so grade 11 in art class. I was reading this book, and at some point, like in our art class, we had been like commissioned to make a painting based on particular novels that the high school would be reading. So grade 10 is To Kill a Mockingbird, grade 11 is Lord of the Flies, and grade 12 for the class I was in, it was optional. And actually, that's where I read Brave New World for the first time.
Ooh, neat.
And that was like the weird thing where Catcher in the Rye was on the list, but like the teacher we had, he said, "Oh no, you can't read that, man. You shouldn't read. Oh, I'm not going to let people read that one. You know, it makes people go kind of weird and stuff." And I was like, "Well, now you just like make people want to read it." So
that weird book where a guy talks to a prostitute for like 5 minutes. So edgy.
So edgy.
So
me and my partner, we did Lord of the Flies, and I remember doing this like big painting of like the island, and like I was trying to be like, I guess like graphic design minded, and had these like it was like kind of like comic panels of like a close up of like the Ralph character, a close up of the Jack character looking crazy and all like jungled up, and then the third one was just like the rotting pig head. And like it'd be like,
man,
it was so horrible. I hope that thing doesn't exist anymore, because it sucked then. And that's another one of my great positive associations with Lord of the Flies, is that really bad piece of crappy art that I made like 20 years ago.
Do you want to hear my my high school project for Lord of the Flies?
Absolutely.
Because we had one also, which was also in like grade 10 or 11. I can't remember which, but we had to make a soundtrack to the movie. So you had to pick like 10 songs, and then you'd have to
the movie to
the book. To the book. Yeah, we watched the movie too, like that 90s movie as well. That's where that lady said that butterfly shit, because I don't think that was actually in the book. I think that was in the 90s movie where Simon's watching those butterflies. Doesn't matter. So anyways, we had to make a soundtrack to the book, and then you'd have to, it was 10 songs, and then you'd have to say like where each song played as a story point.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a way to like make sure the kid actually read the book, because if you can't think of like 10 moments in the book that aren't all on the first like 20 pages.
Yeah.
So you had to do that and explain it. So the only memory I have of the songs I put in there was there's a scene where all the kids are dancing around a fire. So I put Garth Brooks standing outside the fire because I thought, because like I didn't really take it seriously. I was like, I don't think she really cares. I was like, if I just make a song about fire and then put it at the fire.
Yeah,
life is not trying when you merely survive and you're standing outside the fire. So if anyone's not familiar, you should go look up the
watch
the
that music video.
The music video. It is a classic. I do remember a couple years ago, it was really hard to find online. It was like all evidence of its existence was just scrubbed from the internet. I don't know if Garth Brooks put down his money for that. I'm guessing he did. He's got a lot of money.
Garth Brooks scratch.
Yeah, 20 years later, they were like, ooh, maybe this is a little insensitive. Or maybe not even insensitive. It was just like, maybe we shouldn't do this. So if you're interested, go find that music video, Standing Outside the Fire.
Yeah.
You'll know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know. So that was my high school project.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your high school feelings on Lord of the Flies? And what are your feelings on Lord of the Flies now?
In high school, I think I thought it was fine. I didn't care that much about it. There was a lot of other things we read. I way more related to, well, not related. I way more enjoyed, say, Hatchet by Gary Paulson for like teen survival books. Do you ever read Hatchet?
No.
It's about a kid who's on like a single propeller plane, and it just crashes on an island, but he's just by himself, and he just has a hatchet. I think he has a dog as well, but it's just like a kid who's by himself on an island with like just this little dull old hatchet, and he has to like survive on his own. That book is fucking rad. I still think about that book today. So out of things I read in high school and junior high, that one always stood out for me way more than Lord of the Flies. I remember I liked it, but I was like, I don't know. Because I think with Lord of the Flies, like what you were saying, people try to like, especially like teachers at that level, try to stuff like the symbolism and metaphors and allegories and illusions. Yep. They like stuff it down your throat so hard that like, unless you're like, I was a pretty good student like in language art class, but even like it was too much for me. I was like, I just don't care anymore. It's like you hear about it so much. So I thought it was fine. This movie I also thought was fine. I think I'm kind of the same with you. The first 40 minutes I was pretty bored because I knew the story and I didn't think there was much to like. There were shots I liked and there were certain ways they filmed things that I thought were really good, but on the whole, like the kids aren't good actors.
No, they're basically all like non-professional actors too.
Yeah, which is like fine too. Like that doesn't bother me that much.
Except for Ralph. Ralph is the only like what's his name, James Delemy or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, so like that doesn't bug me that much, but it didn't like interest me at all either, because I was like the kids aren't acting very good. I know the story. They're not really doing anything to like. It's not showing me anything that I don't already know. So I don't know if that's just because of my exposure to the story itself was throwing me off a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. The story itself, I do like. I don't think, as you said, it's not this revolutionary thing anymore. Maybe in the 50s, 60s it was, but yeah. I don't think it is as much anymore. I do like the story, and I like what like the ideas he says and all that, but I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just kind of like, that this is like, I don't know. It's a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie. Yeah, I'm never going to watch it again. I'm never going to read the book again.
No.
But there is like certain things that have like culturally, or not even culturally, but like between me and my friends that have just stuck with us since high school,
Mm.
where it's like stuff like the conch, like what you said with the asmar.
Yeah.
Like Andrea still like says asmar
Yeah.
instead of asthma now. And then one thing we always used to do is when Piggy at the end is like talking and he's like, "I got the conch, you guys, you gotta listen to me." So me and my friends would always do that. I don't know if you're hanging out and there was some guy like was trying to talk and no one would listen to him, like because people are talking about other stuff. It would just be like, "I have the conch, you guys," like stuff like that. So I guess it did have an impression on us.
Sure.
Like, we're still talking about it.
Yeah. Because some guys in the Criterion outfit said, "Hey, we got to get this Lord of the Flies in there. That's big business. We can sell these to schools forever."
Yeah, exactly. But no, I don't know. I didn't really take that many notes. I think there was like 3 lines, and they're not even really worth mentioning. It's just I was like, "Nah, I can just wing it.
Yeah.
I know the story. This movie is not anything I've seen all this before, so whatever." No, it's fine. It's a good story.
It's not,
and the movie's
not,
fine.
yeah,
too.
yeah, it's not a bad movie. It's not like too
Yeah.
long. It's just like, I don't know. It doesn't. It's weird because like when you were mentioning the Beast before, it's one of those things where like in the book on the written page, it's a lot, it leaves so much more to the imagination. When you watch the movie, like you're seeing exactly what the Beast is, and then there's no like vagueness of like a little kid explaining to the other little kids like what he saw, and it's like completely accurate but at the same time distorted. But when you're watching it like in this like again like this docudrama style filming, it kind of like
There's no mystery to it.
It kills that mystery, but it's also kind of like also horrifying because you're like, oh, this guy is going to get killed now. And so it's like in the book, it's just like, oh, he killed this person, and it's just like kind of abstractly violent. But in this, it's like a bit more grotesque because you're actually seeing it play out. But yeah, I don't know. The copy of this I wound up watching too is just off of YouTube, and it's just like I think there is a Blu-ray of this, and I bet the Blu-ray probably looks like way better even. But I mean, like I could tell that this movie was like fairly well shot.
Yeah.
But like I said, like I'm not sure. Like I didn't think the acting was that bad. Like I don't know. I didn't think
it was bad. It's just like they're kid actors in the 60s. Like they don't have train or anything. So
sure.
I don't think it was. I don't mean it was bad.
That was like
out of it. It was like it didn't engage me at all.
Sure, but I mean, like that's the thing with like having a bunch of kids that are not professionals. It's like it's sort of it's kind of a naturalistic decision to have like this is what kids actually would be acting like, kind of.
Yeah.
But we're like also making them enact things, so it's a weird trade-off there. I mean, I'm sure that like if Werner Herzog made like a Lord of the Flies in like kind of the same way, it could play totally differently and maybe even a little bit more lively because there is sort of a dryness when I was mentioning kind of like the British style of like filmmaking that this kind of felt like at times.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I really got to say about it, frankly.
I have to say,
yeah, I mean, I just thought, yeah,
it's fine. It's not a bad movie.
No,
but if you know the story, if you've read the book, and if you've seen movies of it before, you're not going to get much out of it. Bang for your buck, you should just go watch that Simpsons episode where it's Lord of the Flies. Go watch that one instead with a expert narrator, Leonard Nimoy. You'll get more out of that than you would with this.
There you go. Let me share a little bit of hatred that this film seems to engender, though. I was actually surprised how many people like really sounded off on this. Actually, one person, I'm not sure if it's Jamie or Jaime Rebinal. I think they run there's a Criterion Collectors Facebook page, and this person kind of puts themselves out there as like a real Criterion fan, and their review of this, 1/2 star, is beyond insufferable. If there's anything more to say, that was it. It's like,
well, that's a shitty review, and 2. I bet they're not fans of this show.
Probably not. Anna gave this 1 star, and Anna wrote, Steven, raise your hand if you don't like this movie. Every single person in the class raises their hand. Yeah, this movie was so bad, it was funny.
I don't really agree with that. Yeah. It's not a bad movie.
So like I have this feeling that these people are all high school students.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Ghost Stark.
Ghost Rider?
Ghost Stark.
No.
I guess they're the dog from Game of Thrones, the wolf.
Or Tony Stark.
Jon
Come on now.
Snow's. 1 star. This film is flat out garbage. Do not watch it for any reason. Direction, acting, music, pacing, sound design, all trash. I want to forget this movie's existence.
No, that's a little unfair.
I have a feeling that these are like kids,
Kids.
yeah.
Okay.
Like actually,
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, I thought the music actually was pretty good. I was like, it's actually, I've noticed that like it seems like that's the score for this has been used in like a bunch of different stuff. And like, I don't know what people would hate about it other than like, yeah, it feels like it's from like 1963, and I guess if you're not like used to watching stuff like that, it could put you off. I mean, if you like this style of movie, I would highly recommend people check out Peter Watkins movies. I don't know if I've actually pushed any Peter Watkins on you as of yet, but
I think just A Bug's Life.
Nope. There is the War Game and Culloden. Those are all-time bangers, RJ. Amongst like the two of the best things ever made, in my opinion. They're like kind of done in this style, but far more like in a documentary sort of layout, and about sort of similar issues about civilization and nuclear war and how people behave, and but like far more impactful.
Well, this is the first I'm hearing about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't come up with between us when we've been talking about stuff. But yeah, War Game is pretty sweet. And actually, I'm going to look it up right now. I think it might even be the same year. So this style is kind of like was in vogue perhaps because maybe it was cheaper to make stuff like that where you didn't have to make it look super polished or something like that. I don't know.
Kind of like me.
Yeah, War Game was 65, so a couple years later still. But they're very tone-wise, they're in the same ballpark, but one just is so much more successful than the other.
Right. Well, the thing about that, Jarrett, is movies are fun?
Sometimes. Some movies try to be fun, and they fail miserably.
No, I would be interested to watch these things that you talk about. I've never heard of them before, so
okay.
I don't know.
Fine, very well.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts here on Lord of the Flies? This is a shorty.
Well, it's because I was talking about what the theater was like for Logan for about 35 minutes. So, hey, thank God I did, or else this would have been a 10-minute episode.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I have nothing more to say. It's fine. Yeah.
Oh, I think I did refer. I did refer to Piggy as the OG sad bastard loser.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good description.
Well, there's like there's a comment about he's been wearing glasses since he was 3, and the Asmar.
And the Asmar. A lot of people can relate to that.
Yep.
Not me. I was all abs as a little kid.
There you go.
Superstar. Everyone thought it was cool. So just believe me. Don't look into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that's it for Lord of the Flies. After the break, a man is going to show up on the beach, and he's going to look at us and say, man, how did these people become so feral and uncivilized? And then he'll look longingly at his own nuclear warship.
Ghost Rider?